Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another election prediction. This time we're taking a look at the 2025 New York City mayoral election, which is happening in a couple months in November. So the last time I did one of these videos, I originally thought that Cuomo wasn't really going to consider running after losing so badly in the Democratic primary, but he's now went back to fully campaigning for New York City mayor. Eric Adams, his support is like pretty much non-existent. He's at such a low polling level support. Silwa, he's winning over Republicans, but really it's between Cuomo and Mamdani here. So Cuomo's firmly in second place. The other two candidates, Silwa and Adams, they're in third and fourth, respectively. Mamdani is kind of running away with it right now. So the only way this race really gets interesting is if we see Eric Adams and Curtis Silwa drop out. That's the only way it gets competitive. But we're going to start off with the 5 boroughs first, then we'll go into vote totals. So starting off with Manhattan, I expect Mamdani to do extremely well in Manhattan, winning it by 25 points, which would make it safe blue. Going over to Brooklyn, it is his home borough. He has performed very strongly here in the Democratic primary, so I also expect him to do extremely well in Brooklyn, probably winning it by around 25 points or so. Going over to Queens, I expect him to win it by over 10, but I think it'll definitely be closer than Manhattan and Brooklyn. I think it's going to go to Mamdani by about 13 points in Queens, so that would make it safe blue. Going up north to the Bronx, this is going to be one of the closer areas for Mamdani. Cuomo's definitely going to do well with black voters. So is Eric Adams. If he does stay in the race, that could definitely hurt Cuomo's chances of winning this borough. But right now I have Mamdani winning the Bronx by 9% as of right now. So that would make it a likely blue borough. Going over to Staten Island, this is Silwa's home territory here. And he's definitely going to win Staten Island. But it could be a bit closer than usually because Cuomo could be eating into his Republican support here. But I have Curtis Silwa still winning this, probably by about 11 points or so, while Zoran Mamdani gets second and Cuomo gets third. So in terms of vote totals, we're going to get into that now. Mamdani, I expect him to have 48% of the vote. Cuomo, I expect him to have 27% of the vote. Siwa, I expect him to have 18% of the vote. And Eric Adams gets 7% of the vote. So I also covered additional scenarios here. So let's just zoom in back to New York City. So another potential scenario is, let's say that Eric Adams decides to drop out of the race because he's polling terribly. So in this scenario, I would have Cuomo gaining 3% support from Eric Adams. Silwa gains 2% support from Eric Adams. So they're each getting a 3% bump in Cuomo, 2% bump in Siwa, and Mamdani. He's definitely going to increase his support by a little bit, either by 1 or 2 points. And judging because there's 2% left, I have that last 2% going to Zoran Mamdani. So he only wins a very small amount of support for Eric Adams supporters, which are probably from the Bronx because, again, he has a lot of black support in the Bronx, so I could see a lot of them just defaulting to the Democratic nominee. So Mamdani's at 50, Cuomo 30, Siwa 20. If Siwa were to drop out, now that's also extremely unlikely, then Cuomo would gain 16% support, while Mamdani only gains 4% support. So if it's just a 1v1 between Mamdani and Andrew Cuomo, I would have Mamdani up at 54% to Cuomo 46%. So Mamdani in a 1v1 scenario, in my opinion, would win by 8 points. And the polling kind of supports this when we look into the scenarios. Zenith Research poll would have Cuomo losing by a pretty significant margin to Mamdani. However, if they look at it through registered voters, this is assuming a much older electorate. Could be a lot closer in this scenario. However, we're probably going to see a lot of young voters turn out in this election, just like they did in the Democratic primary, where they saw record-breaking turnout among them. So just because of how well Mamdani did in the Democratic primary, I'm still expecting a lot of his supporters to turn out on election day. He's still going to get a pretty large amount of support. But again, it's unlikely that we even see Eric Adams drop out. I know there's some reporting that he might drop out, but then he went back on it again. If he does drop out, it's really not going to affect things much. If Siwa drops out, that would affect things a lot. So Andrew Cohen needs it to be a one-on-one race to even have a shot. And even then, he's like only has like a 25% chance of winning in a 1v1 scenario. So I fully expect Zohran Mamdani to be the next mayor of New York City. It's a lot. It would take a lot to go wrong for him to lose, considering when there's 4 candidates in the race, he's already at 48% support. So yeah, I fully expect Mamdani to win this race. I don't really think it's gonna be all that competitive unless you get Siwa and Eric Adams to drop out, so Cuomo could have that one-on-one race. But thank you everyone for watching this video. If you enjoyed content like this, you should definitely consider subscribing if you aren't subscribed already. Other than that, I will see you all in the next video. Thanks so much for watching.